What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I'm Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are dealing with our mommy issues in an extremely startling way as we talk about Ari Aster's latest film, Beau is Afraid.
Following the sudden death of his mother, a mild-mannered but anxiety-ridden man confronts his darkest fears as he embarks on an epic Kafkaesque odyssey back home. Listen, I'm just going to say right out of the gate, the way that Ari Aster describes this movie is it's basically about a guy who needs to come. And that's pretty much not wrong. Right, Ben?
Yeah, I think we ended up finding that out. I think didn't he call it the Jewish Lord of the Rings or something like that, I believe?
Just
so
unhinged.
All of which seems accurate. So, yeah.
Yes. So that is going to set the tone for the pod. This is how the episode is going to go. Spoilers are ahead for Beau is Afraid. I think our plan is to go spoiler free at first. We're going to try and do a general overview. That should probably be 10 or 15 minutes. And then we'll give a hard cut on when we're going to get into spoiler territory. Because this movie is just one what the fuck moment after the next, and going in as blind as possible, I think is beneficial, but we'll talk about that. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. We just watched it today. It is out today. We're recording on Thursday. Pod comes out on Friday, the official first day that the movie is out. I saw it a few hours ahead of you. We are very fresh on this movie, Ben.
Yeah.
Let's do non-spoiler first. Let's go high level, general thoughts, review. What do you think of Beau is Afraid?
Beau-ring. I did not like it.
Wow! Oh my God!
No, man. It was such a bummer. Such a bummer. I'm so
disappointed.
In a
state of shock right now.
I know. Me too.
I'm not saying that I heavily enjoyed it. I'm just shocked. Like this was your thing. This was your project, man. This was your A24 gem right here.
This was like the hottest take I can give you, and I think this will help Ethan. I was thinking this as I was watching it. I was like, this will probably help it into context. There were multiple points throughout this movie where it's like, I think I'd rather be watching the Batman right now. Like, oh
my God, that is just brutal.
Like, I don't know. Like, he's Joaquin. Like, I don't know that he's ever given a bad performance. I mean, I've made my feelings on the Joker clear here.
Sure.
But he is one of the 2 to 3 things I like about that movie. He gives a great performance. And he gives, a good performance here as well. But I just didn't give a shit about anything that was happening. And I was so disappointed, It's it was crazy. I mean, anyone that listens to this is probably in the Twitter sphere or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's that meme where it's 2 things that shake hand and then underneath what they have in common,
Yep.
And I was just as I was driving home, I was like, oh, it's Ari Aster shaking hands with Alex Garland, and it's A24 auteurs who third movies falls fucking flat for me. I was just like, what happened with Men? What happened with Beau is Afraid? I was just I don't know.
Dude,
I don't know.
Can't do the three-peat. Doesn't work.
Oh man. And I think that's why I felt that way about, or I had that thought about Batman too, because I went into it ready. I was ready for it to be my movie of the year. I've talked about it. I bought that Super Yaki Robert Pattinson shirt in the My Chemical Romance font, long before it came out. I was like, I'm going to fucking love this movie. This is going to be great, And I don't know. I felt that about this too. And it was just kind of
no,
this was my disappointment boulevard without a doubt. I don't know. I will watch it another time because, the first time is a lot, but I know that I left Midsommar just oh, that's one of my favorite things I've ever seen. I was into it from the beginning. Same with Hereditary. I didn't see that in theaters. When I watched it at home, I was like, I don't need to see that again, but that was amazing. Mm-hmm. But this one, man, I don't know. It's just it was. I told you that I saw someone on Twitter say that they compared this to Babylon, and from what I've heard about Babylon, it's okay, I think I get it, where it's just man, we gave some people a lot of money in 3 hours to tell a story
do
that
something that they wanted.
Yeah, it's like I don't know that. It felt like, man, I'm not honestly trying to shit on this, but it's just like, oh, this is like a depraved like student film that just like went off the rails, where it's just like all the weirdest thoughts I've ever had. Like, I want to put that in a movie, and they did that, but it was like nothing hit me really at all, which was like such a bummer. Like I don't know. I'll gather my thoughts. I want to hear yours. What did you think about it? Well,
look, you're in the right place, Ben, because, this is a safe space and we can talk it through and we can figure it out. And, I'm a little shocked. I'm a little shell shocked, to be honest with you.
Because
because you were very excited, and I did get home from the movie, and Molly was like, my wife, she was like, how was the movie? Like, I want to hear about, like, how was the movie? And I was like, you know what? I don't know. Like, I just don't know. And so a little insight into my experience, my theater going experience. I saw it on IMAX. I love IMAX. That's like my go-to. I don't know who Ari Aster like promised a house to or something to get this to play on IMAX screens.
Yeah.
I don't get it necessarily. Like it's fine. It's great. Like IMAX is always cool, but like was this like, it's being promoted as like, you got to see this in IMAX, and like coming from an IMAX guy, I'm like, I don't really get that portion of it. It is very auteur. It is very like very film bro like driven. So it just doesn't translate for me for that IMAX. But I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I was really pushing the limits. I got a large soda, and that was a risky move. It was a very risky move, but I made it. I made it all the way to the end. Didn't miss any of it. And when I was in the bathroom, I overheard somebody outside that was in the theater with me, that had just seen it and was talking to, I believe was their dad. And they go, well, my jaw is dropped. I don't think I understood any of that. And I was like, you know what? That's pretty on point, honestly. Like, it was a lot, and it was a lot of really interesting things, I think. But like, what does it mean? I think we will get into that. Staying spoiler free, I liked it more than you did. Obviously, I think that's clear. I will absolutely be seeing this again, not necessarily in the theater. I don't know if it's worth that. I was big into like going to see Babylon again in the theater, because I think that deemed a theater going experience. I think this is one of those movies that might benefit from like an at-home watch, when you can like be like, hey, I just want to consume like this 20 minutes of it and then really ponder that. I think it's got a lot of really crucial and incremental pieces that try to say some things, and I just don't know if the structure is correct. Here's what I was thinking, and people that listen to this pod know, Ben, I was trying to, same as you, I was trying to figure out like, hey, how am I going to relate this to Ben? How am I going to like get through to him about what my thoughts are? And my very first, and if you've seen the movie, you'll understand this, and we'll get into it. My very first thought was, I think Ari Aster turned into little Darren Aronofsky there at the end. I think we went full Aronofsky, and I think A24 just like was like, do whatever the fuck you want, man. We can afford it. And it's like, oh wow, I don't know if necessarily that was the right thing or not. I don't really know. So I liked it more than you did. I think there's a lot of good pieces. I think Joaquin is sublime. I think Patti LuPone is dynamite in this movie. Truly, I think she's very, very good. In what she does do. I want to mention real quick. So Ari Aster, you mentioned it is his third film with A24. He's done Hereditary. He's done Midsommar. Two kind of stalwart Hall of Famers in A24 horror, have really paved the way for what A24 is known for. He also did a Reddit AMA over on our movies a few days ago, earlier in the week. We have talked about it here on the pod before about why the title was changed from Disappointment Boulevard to Beau is Afraid. I just want to read his answer because I think it was interesting, and I think both you and I agreed. I think we liked Disappointment Boulevard a little bit more.
For sure, yeah.
Of a title. So this is what he said. He said the name was changed to distract from old scripts of Beau that were floating around. Apparently, there were old scripts several years ago floating around on 4chan that people had read and had leaked and had gotten out. He also said that Disappointment Boulevard felt like a title that Beau's mom might have given the film. And another alternate title, which was actually on the clapboard, was Mona's Choice, which after seeing the film, I think is very interesting in context to what that might mean.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a couple, just a couple broad general questions before we go into True Cinema and start breaking this absolutely mindfuck movie down and trying to figure out what it is all about. I want to know what was your favorite act of the movie? We get kind of a pretty cut and clear 3-act structure, it feels like, with the third act being significantly shorter than the other two. I had a very standout favorite act that I was like, this is more my speed. Did you feel that with any of the acts? I don't know. I'm curious since you didn't really like it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first act seems very much is Joaquin, just kind of him, for the most part. The second act, we introduce Amy Ryan and Nathan Lane, who are both great actors. But yeah, it just wasn't, that wasn't it for me. I would say the third act was my favorite part. We get Parker Posey, who I'm always
I knew you were going to be
for.
very happy about the Parker Posey.
Yeah, it was cool to see her. And then, Patti LuPone just chewed scenery, man, in the best way. So the third act for me definitely was my favorite part of the whole thing.
Interesting.
So
okay.
It was good to go out on a high, but it's a bummer to have to wait for hour 3 to be oh, okay, maybe this is okay. I don't know. That's a hard ask, I think.
Yeah, it is a hard ask. And I think, and I was talking to Molly too, I think this movie, I'm exceptionally curious to see how the box office does, because I went to a 3 p.m. showing on a Thursday afternoon, middle of a work day, played a little hooky and lied about what I was doing. And I said I had a family obligation. And you know what? This is, I don't know if it was better than a family obligation. I don't know, yet to be determined. But so I went, and there was probably 15 or 20 people there. And I was a little surprised. I was a little impressed, but I'm really curious. It just feels like a movie that is really going to ask a lot of audience members, especially based on a trailer. You're sitting for 3 hours and you're taking twists and turns and really some high level, again, Aronofsky type things where you're really asking these huge questions about how things interlock or connect and really stretching people. So I'm really, really interested to see how this will do and how people will pick it up and if people will attach to it. I just don't know. You mentioned Amy Ryan in the second act. I'm sorry. I know you're an Office guy as well. I can't distinguish her from her role in The Office. I'm just oh, cool. Awesome. Where's Michael Scott? Bring him in. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I liked the second act the most.
Cool.
I really enjoyed it. I think that is where I wanted the story to be pretty much the whole time. I think the third act was really, really pushing that envelope for me of okay, where are we going? What are we doing? What is the point? What are we connecting to here? And I think the second act with Amy Ryan, with Nathan Lane, offered some of the funniest moments, in my opinion. That comedy from Nathan Lane was really on point for me. And I think it made for some of the most intriguing things. You get kind of a lot of interesting things happening. I won't say quite yet, but I think it allowed for the most intriguing kind of dynamic and energetic storyline between Joaquin and what is going on around him. I think that worked really well for me. What does it all mean? That's my one question I want to ask you before we dive into details. Because it's kind of hard to keep talking about this movie without going into spoilers, to be honest.
I genuinely have no idea. And I think maybe that's part of my review. You know what I mean? It's just
yeah. I don't know either.
I mean, we talked about it on here. I do my best and I try not to listen to anyone else's thoughts on a movie before we talk about it. And I will say I'm very excited after this to listen to some of the pods that I know both of us and just smarter people. What do you guys think? Because I don't know, man. I cannot grasp what the intent was behind this, and I will take full responsibility for that. That's totally on me.
Yeah.
But it's just I don't know. I've talked about my bad theater experiences before, and surprisingly didn't have any talkers tonight. But I did have 5 people around me who felt like they needed to keep checking their phone throughout.
Oh, come on, people.
Which is super annoying at first. And then by the end, I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's fine. Whatever, you know.
We'll let it slide.
No, honestly, like I hate when people are on their phone. Like if you were on your phone at the 7 p.m. showing at the Sandy Cinemark, please fuck off. Like, stop getting on your phone during movies. Like, if you don't like it, leave, you know? But like one dude, I literally saw him open up his LinkedIn app. It's like, what the fuck? Are you looking for a job right now? Like, are you waiting to hear back? And his like partner, wife, whoever was sitting next to him, like she was just on Instagram, like multiple times, like at least 10 times.
And people paid for these tickets. They like paid to go see this film, and they were LinkedIn is better than this movie.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, it was so annoying. So I hate that. It's nice to not have talkers, but it's still just like, it's still very inconsiderate. But yeah, all that to say that, you know, there are times where I'm like, okay, I think I know where this is going, and then just like pulls the rug out from under. It's like, oh, okay, so it wasn't that. So like, what is it supposed to be? It's like a dude with mommy issues who needs to bust a nut is like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like,
yeah, that's
is that it though? Like, is that really it? Like, do they give him $50 million to do that? Like, maybe, I don't know.
Here's what I think is so interesting though, because what if, and Ari Aster does strike me as the kind of guy who would do this. What if that's it? Like, what if it is that student film project, but he got $20 million to do it, and he got Joaquin, and he got all these cool people, and he got A24 behind it, and he was like, yeah, let's just make a really fucked up version of a guy who just has like really deep mommy trauma and has to bust a nut, and like, let's just get as weird as we can. Maybe that is really it, and maybe that is part of the device, right? Like, maybe that's what makes it so divisive, because a lot of these reviews have been one side of the aisle or the other. It's people love it or they hate it. And I'm curious too, because like I as well, I don't really know what it's about.
There were interesting things that kept happening throughout though. Like a lot of people saying, I'm sorry, you know, when like it normally wouldn't fit in there, you know, even like when he calls his therapist and like, it's a voicemail. It's like, sorry. I'm like, or it's like, hi, this is so-and-so. I'm able to come to the phone right now. Please leave a message. Also, I'm sorry, you know, it's just like, oh, but he would say that too. Like, you were like, when he called like his landlord or whatever, like, I'm sorry, this is so-and-so. It's just, and as someone who has a tendency to over apologize for things, like it was very noticeable throughout the movies. So that kind of, in a sense, made sense of the note, you know, that Amy Ryan leaves him. It's like, oh, okay, so maybe he's just been doing more of this than we realize. And then maybe in the bigger picture, when we get into spoilers, we can kind of understand a little more of like why she wrote that note, because on the surface, it doesn't make any sense, you know, like why would that happen? But I think we'll cover that more as we get into spoilers. But yeah, I don't know. It just kind of, it really just felt disjointed, like just kind of all over the place. And maybe that was intentional, but it just didn't, that doesn't work for me personally.
I do think that I don't know if it'll necessarily be reclaimed in 5 years, in 10 years. Like, you know, that conversation with Babylon that I'm very, you know, very much entrenched in the Babylon hive of like, this movie will be reclaimed in 10 years as one of the greats, as one of, you know, modern cinema's best pictures. I don't think that's the case with Beau is Afraid, but I do believe that it will age well. I do believe that as it hits different people at different times and different demographics down the road, I think people will see different sides to it. And I think it's something that is really complex, even though I just said, like, what if Ari Aster's just fucking with us and it doesn't really mean anything? But, you know, I think at the end of the day, it is really about, you know, the big mommy issues and generational trauma. And I think it is about that duality of trauma and how you can either take it on or you can push it to somebody else, and what that might mean for an individual person, which, you know, I think is worth talking about. But the way that this story is told, it does feel a bit disjointed from that overall theme. Do you want to start doing spoilers? Because I really want to start doing spoilers.
I mean, yeah, I think we should get into spoilers. I just want to say one thing though, off topic. I'm about to take an international flight. And I thought nothing would be funnier than that being the first time I watched Babylon on the back of someone's seat.
Go,
maybe
Ben.
that's what I do. Maybe
you
this is like,
son of a bitch, you.
I'll have 11 hours to fly somewhere. I guess I can spend half of that watching one movie. I don't know how fucking long that thing is. But.
Are you saying this because you saw my tweet? Did you see my tweet that cinema has reached the sky?
No, I didn't. Did it really? Oh.
I flew to Boston, or I flew to New York, and I went to the Boston Marathon, right? And on our flight to New York, there was actually no Wi-Fi. So on a 5.5 hour flight, we just got bamboozled with no Wi-Fi. Luckily, I had downloaded a couple of movies that I watched that I lucked out on. One of which being Spotlight. Great, just fantastic film. But
that's what I hear.
In the you haven't seen Spotlight?
No, I'm kidding. I just don't like it.
Oh my God, Ben! What a separate pod.
I responded to your tweet with that. I was like, it's all right. It's
you
fine.
did, yeah. You said it's all right.
It's a movie that has one amazing scene, and that's it.
They knew, and they did nothing about it.
Thank you, Mark Ruffalo. But
Thank you, Mark.
Can't build a movie around one scene. But at least it had one. This one, I don't even know.
So my pamphlet, this is a real story. My pamphlet had, it's like, oh, all these new movies and stuff. And like, there's some good new movies. And I was like, cool, maybe I'll knock out some new movies. Bam. Massive poster of Babylon. And I was like, cinema has reached the sky, baby.
Yeah,
we've done it. And so I wish you the best on your Babylon journey.
I appreciate
I really hope
that.
the best for you.
The plan right now is to head over to Amsterdam and then probably train up to Copenhagen. So I know Vibe, I believe she lives in Denmark. So if you've got any travel tips, like
let's go.
Let me know. Anyone else who listens and's got some good advice about Amsterdam or Copenhagen, DMs are open. Tell me what to do.
I think this is exceptionally on brand because this is a pod about one of the biggest A24 movies right now, and you've diverted to talking about your travel tips for Amsterdam. Yeah. So I feel good about that.
I feel like I would much rather talk about this movie right now. Yeah.
Okay, let's break this movie down. Let's talk about spoilers. Let's start going into this. So the very, very opening scene, I don't have it here on the list because I don't include it in the True Cinema. I don't think it's worth that. It's Joaquin Phoenix being born, essentially, and it's like the weirdest thing, right?
Yeah, it was super strange. It gave me like Uncut Gems vibes, where it's just like after a little bit, like, oh, okay, this is like kind of what's happening. It's really interesting to see that. But I think it sets the tone as far as like the mother's relationship, it's just that's the first time that, Beau gives her any sort of like panic or anything like that. So it's like from minute one, she's got beef with this kid already, it kind of seems like, because like she held on to so much shit.
Yeah, she did.
It's like, you promised me you'd never hurt me. It's like, he was probably 6. Like, what are you doing? Like, just all the weird promises and stuff that she brought up about him. So very, very interesting way to start the movie for sure.
Yeah, exceptionally interesting way. Okay. The first True Cinema moment I have on here is walking home from the therapist. We get an introduction to the city that Beau is living in. It is essentially this kind of post-dystopian, like blown apart, just terrible city. Like vagrants are running this place, and there are dead people in the street, and it is downright frightening what is like going on in this city.
Yeah, one thing I did enjoy about this scene that Ari Aster did with Midsommar, I don't remember if he did with Hereditary or not, but like, he kind of tells us like what's going to happen throughout the rest of the movie later on. Like Midsommar, we had that mural that if you pause and look at it, like it shows you the whole movie. It shows you everything that's going to happen. And there were moments of that. Like I need to watch it again, but obviously like the little statuette thing that he gets, and then that thing is outside his house.
Yep.
The boat flipping over when the mom comes to get the kid, and he's playing with the boat in the water, and then she pulls him away. Like the boat
I didn't even put that together.
Over. Yeah. And
wow.
So like when I saw that, like,
by the way, full blown spoiler territory. We forgot to make a hard call out.
Sorry, yeah,
but we are full blown spoilers now. Yes, that's a great call though.
Yeah, so I want to go back and look at other stuff. Like I don't think anyone jumped off the building or anything. Like
I do know one other instance. Very same thing when he first gets his pills and is very much leaving the therapist's office. We kind of see that in the trailer.
Yeah,
and I think that's what is a really enticing part of the trailer because there is so much going on. There is somebody behind him that we get a glimpse of that has a sign that says, "Will will trade feet for hands or something to that effect, which then later on takes place in multiple ways. In two different ways, there is someone that something gets said about like, hey, this person sewed feet on their hands. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think
it's
in the play where they talked about that. They put hands where their feet were, or something along those lines.
Exactly. So yeah, you're very much that's a great call out of like Ari telling us what's going to go down. I think it's a really great tonal set again for like kind of the madman nightmare that like Joaquin is undergoing and what Beau's like predisposition of the world around him is. Is that actually the world around him? Is that how he views the world around him? Is that how he sees things go down? We don't ever get a clear answer of that. And I think that is a very interesting thing that like I personally would have loved a little bit more tangibility of like what is real, what is not real, what are we doing? And I guess that's just part of me wanting a little bit of kind of clarity into a lot of these things. Maybe I just need to believe like it's all 100% real. Like everything definitely went down.
Yeah.
You get to the third act, that's a little bit hard to go with. That's again asking a lot. But I like this introduction to the city. The second one is taking his pills with no water. So he gets these pills. You have to take them with water. Very, very important. He has no water in his apartment, and he puts a pill in his mouth and he runs out and he leaves the door to his apartment complex open with a phone book. And he goes across the street and he takes some water and tries to pay. And all these vagrants and just lunatic people invade the apartment complex, invade his apartment. And I got really strong vibes of Mother. I don't know about you. Again, like I hate to relate it back to Aronofsky, but I was like, this is Mother. And this is like really kind of off-putting for me.
It was, that was really interesting. I think Ari Aster does a couple cool things at this intro here. With the last thing that we just talked about, I do love when suddenly when Beau is just like full dead sprint running towards like the tattooed guy. It's like, what is happening here? Like, you have no idea. And then you realize like he's just trying to get away from him as fast as possible. Like, oh, that was kind of cool. But the other thing I really enjoyed that fucked with me, because I fucking hate spiders so much, but seeing those flyers, the brown recluse, and then like he opens the door and you see the recluse go under his couch, and it's just in the back of your head the whole time. And like I was even sitting there just like, you know, it's probably not even going to happen. Like he probably just put it there just to fuck with us and just like wait for something to happen, because he's moving the couch against and like nothing is going on. It doesn't go into his bed or anything. It's like, we may never see that spider again. And then if he had done that, it still would have worked perfectly. I'm like, that was great. You set us up for something that never paid off, but like in a way that messed with us, like in a good way, you know. How it showed up though was still like pretty interesting. We saw it attack that dude, and then a scene we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I think the Mother, like the invasion, then it is funny to like be with him in the shop as he's just watching them all go in. He's like, oh no, like just everybody from the whole street is just going into his building and then like into his apartment specifically, you know, and then having him run over and the lady's like, oh, I'm just going to move the phone book out of the way. God, like, it's so funny. And so,
like, I wanted him to get in, but like, if he gets back into his apartment, what is he gonna do? Like he's at a loss anyway. He's out. So I think there's a lot going on there, and it is definitely very like tension filled, very stress ordaining, like on purpose, especially with the brown recluse. I want to talk just for a second about these notes that he ends up getting from his neighbor. They end up sliding under the door, asking him turn his music down. It's really loud. It happens multiple times. On like the third note, it slides all the way from the door all the way to his bed, which I thought was actually really sick. I was like,
very cool visual.
Very cool visual. What can I mean, number one of however many, take a shot every time I say what the fuck, because you're going to be blacked out by the end of the pod. But like, what is that? What the fuck is going on? What does that mean? Was it real? Was it anything? Who had the music? Because someone turned on the music at the end, right?
Yeah, for the third time, where it's like, please, I'm sleep deprived, whatever. And then it's like they go in, because for me, it was implied that it was the person that wrote the note. But then it's like they're out of retaliation. It's like, well, fine, then I'll play my music super loud, even though like no one else is playing music loud, or I don't know, something along those lines. But that is the kind of stuff where it's like, is this real? Or like where did his luggage go? Where did the keys go? Like,
apparently, apparently the keys are imaginary, according to his mother. It sounds like he doesn't even live there. Which I want to take a brief kind of like exit off because I have a more broad question. So I want to know what is the logistical layout of what we're talking about here? What is this city? Because he lives in this city. We learn that he ends up going 6 hours away to Amy Ryan and Nathan Lane's place, and that's kind of the second act.
Yeah.
And then he goes to his mom's house. And then the forest. We get this massive thing in the forest. Like, are we all relatively close? Like, I'm just trying to get I'm just trying to map this out, right?
Yeah, I have no idea. It is interesting to see like when he goes to his mom's house and they have like the printout, whatever, of like the rehab development like building, which is like the building that he lives in.
Yep.
You know, so it's like in my first, I was like, oh, was he there like for a rehab thing? Because obviously like he's talking to a therapist and, you know, he's, I don't know, you know, definitely has anxiety issues. Almost feels like, what is it when you think you're sick all the time? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Hypochondriac, kind of like that, because like he just keeps asking, like, is this gonna kill me? Is this gonna kill me? Like we get that multiple times throughout the movie.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what the layout is there. Like it felt like, I mean, there's a plane ride distance between that town and his mom's town. Like that's got to be somewhat significant. And I think, does Nathan Lane say it's like a 6 hour drive or something?
6 hour drive. That? Yep.
But I mean, what is that in a walk? It's like a week or something. Like that's nuts.
Yeah, but I think the 6 hour drive is from where he ends up with Grace and Roger. Those are the two people that he ends up with. I think it's a 6 hour drive to where his mom lives from there. So we don't know where his town is. We don't know where his technical, like his development is. And then another follow-up question, like Amy Ryan's character Grace and Nathan Lane's character Roger, like it looked like they were running like a soup kitchen food truck kind of in front of Beau's apartment complex. But like, what are they just like doing some good work? Is this like, is this like an underserved community? Obviously, like, why are they there in the first place? And, Grace, maybe not a great driver. Maybe shouldn't be in the streets, Grace.
Maybe not. But you saw Nathan Lane on the poster, right? Like when he's
on the poster.
On like when he's at his mom's house and there's that big poster of her face.
Yeah.
And then you zoom in and you see like all the individual faces.
Oh,
like
he was on there too.
Yeah. The one dead center is Parker Posey.
Yep.
But then like top right a little bit, there's Nathan Lane there. It's like, oh, so he works for the MW Mona Wasserman company. So it's like, oh, maybe he's not even a doctor. Like maybe, right?
Well,
it's
dude,
like,
there's no way. Listen, there's no way he's a doctor because that stitch, that stabbing that he got popped open like the next day, and he's like, "Nah, infected. You're cool, man. You're good."
Don't do jumping jacks. And then we see like the therapist was recording stuff. So it's like, did the mom like make this town just pay all these people to like?
That's what I'm
saying.
And
show him. Like,
that's
is
what
that
I'm
what's
saying.
Going on here? Yeah.
We will get to this, and I think that is a very key question to kind of put a pin in for when we get to the mom's house, because I think a lot of that is at least directed me towards thinking about that more of that more Truman Show-esque type thing. Okay, next on the True Cinema, the phone conversation with the UPS guy, finding out that his mom is dead. I put this on here because actually, when it comes to like the cinematic experience, I thought this was very, very interesting and great technique from Ari Aster here.
Yeah.
That we start close with Beau and we get this very gradual pull out, and then we get a push back in, and we kind of go through this kind of pulsating round of emotions with Beau of trying to learn, is this real? Is this not real? What happened? And then we get further confirmation that Ari Aster just fucking hates people's faces. It's pretty much how that goes.
Yeah, it's kind of what it feels like. It's a great scene. It's really like, that was one of the first, I think, chuckles out of me, I guess, in the movie is when he's like, oh, maybe you misdialed. It's like, oh yeah, that's probably what it was. Like I probably misdialed. And like we pull out, and it's just like, it says mom on there. It's like, you didn't dial it, And then he calls back, and immediately the guy's like, I'm sorry, man. Like,
that was funny.
Definitely your mom. So I like that a lot. I thought that was a funny scene, funny moment.
I think that's definitely the turn where I started to think, okay, like things are gonna get really weird now because like we don't know. Like he was supposed to go. If he had made that plane, she wouldn't have died at all, right? Like maybe we wouldn't be here. And she by the time we get to the end of the movie, we realize, major spoiler alert, she is not actually dead.
Yeah.
She faked her own death to see what Beau would do, try to get him to come. And, I think it's a very interesting storyline. I think it's a little flawed in the way it plays out, but I do think it is interesting. The next one here, the bath guy. So Beau's taking a bath and he looks up and there's this guy just like stuck on top. Is that one of the guys from when they broke into his apartment and he just ended up still being there? So he hid from Beau, or like, what's that guy doing up there?
That was my only guess. Like, I have no idea because like everyone else was gone other than the dude that died. It's like, why is that guy still there?
Yeah.
Or did he like wake up when Beau came in? Was like, oh shit, I've got to hide. How do I get out of here? Yeah, I guess that was it.
Okay, so the guy's like stuck on the side and he's dripping sweat and he
doing his
falls.
Spider-Man up top. Yeah.
Yeah, he falls on top of Beau. They do a little tussle in the bath. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is like the ultimate naked dad body here. Like he's a little pudgy. He's obviously out of his mind, confused about like what's going on. And then this is kind of really the end of the first act. We get this massive like crescendo running through the streets naked. The cop essentially telling him to freeze. And he's like, don't make me do this, man. Don't make me do this, man. And like that very micro scene in particular for me is what leads me to believe like, okay, this is kind of a setup. Like that cop was talking to a hooker as it was.
Yeah.
And he obviously is not, it didn't appear to me like he was a real cop. Like he just continued to say cop things. You know what I mean? Like he didn't use any intuition, and like he was there and he's like, I'm good. I'm not going anywhere. I'm freezing. And he runs away. We find out he ends up getting stabbed by the fucking, what did they name him?
Birthday boy stabber or something like that.
Birthday boy stabber, and gets hit with the car. That was definitely the first like series of events where he gets hit with the car and it kind of goes to black. And my whole theater was just like kind of in murmurs. We were just kind of like, what is going on? What are we doing? And that's like 45 minutes in, man. We had a whole journey to go. We didn't even know.
And yours, I'm assuming, had that like kind of green glitch thing like in between that scene. Do you remember that happening?
I don't recall.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Like, we had something, but it felt like it was done purposefully to like make it seem like it was, I don't know,
like a Vanilla Sky situation? Where he's like stitched into a different reality?
Yeah, it's kind of what it felt like.
Oh my God.
And I wondered when that happened. I was like, oh, okay, what's going on here? But
well, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it so I can own it at home so I can see if we're doing this green stitch thing or not, dude.
If someone's listening that's watched this, like, let me know. Maybe it was genuinely just at my theater where it could just happen, but it felt very intentional where it's just like, oh, I think this is made to seem like, all right, we're going into the second thing here. Who knows if it's real or not? Yeah,
I think it's very interesting. Okay, yeah, that kind of like caps off the first act. Yeah. Let's go into the second act. The ultimate cameo. It's got to be in conversation for one of the cameos of the year so far, for sure.
Yeah, it was good. I like that.
UPS guy is just Bill Hader, pretty much turned around, and you can tell it's Bill Hader. Everybody in my theater got a good laugh out of that. I think that was like one of the funnier moments where it just felt like a little wink, nod, nod of like Ari Aster just being like, yeah, I don't know, just kind of want to have a little fun with this.
Yeah, might as well. If you can get Bill Hader in your movie, get Bill Hader in your movie.
Yeah, it felt good. I wonder how Bill Hader got connected to that. Like, I wonder, like, is he tight with Ari Aster? Is like he hasn't really been in an A24 production, I don't believe. So like, doesn't strike me as like an A24 thing. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, he was in it, but I don't know how that connects to, Ari Aster specifically. Outside of just being a horror movie, but
well, we could connect. We got to get one of these TikTok people on it. Of like, here, connect these people and tell us how they're best friends.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Okay, the next one. This is really the act where Joaquin is with Grace and Roger, and their daughter Tony. We learn about Nathan, their deceased son who died in battle. Very incremental figure to their life, so much so that Grace is doing a puzzle of his face, of his picture, which I thought was hilarious, and I thought that was really funny. Really interesting dynamics, family dynamics. I do have a question about this because we see most of this in the trailer, or a little bit of this in the trailer at least. We get to a dinner table, and this is kind of the first time that Beau is eating a meal with them, with Grace and Roger. Roger gives pills to Grace and pills to Beau. He does not take any pills for himself, from what I noticed. Tony, the daughter, comes in and grabs 2 bottles of pills and walks out. What's your read? What's your read on like the pills, the prescriptions, the therapy, all of the medical things going on in this movie? Is it really just tied to his mom's company, like, or I don't know.
It feels like it's got to be, because it just kind of feels like I don't know where I talked about this before, but in Wall-E, like the by and large company that just like is everything, it kind of felt like that's this version. I think we probably talked about it on here. So it's like, is it like an actual drug, or is it just kind of like some sort of mind control thing? Like, I genuinely have no idea. But what I did enjoy about that scene was that like the specific choice to keep the cameras far away from everyone. Like, we never really push in close on the daughter. Like, we see her from the table, and then we see the table like from her point of view. And I thought that was kind of interesting. The camera did that a few times, where it's like definitely like a POV shot, and even sometimes even moving like the character would. And I thought that stuff was like, it's a interesting stylistic choice. Yeah,
I liked that a lot for what Ari Aster did. I think there were some very creative directorial decisions that I think played out for sure. Beau watching the news about his mom on Tony's laptop and seeing the news, and then seeing basically his like childhood crush, Elaine, who is played by Parker Posey. We kind of learned throughout the movie through flashbacks that they met on a cruise, and basically Beau said that he'd wait for her, and even though they had only known each other for like 6 seconds, and he sees Elaine on the news, and then he immediately proceeds to vomit on the laptop. Fucking left fielder, bro. Wasn't ready for that whatsoever.
Yeah, that was honestly probably the biggest like jump for me. Like I mean, I didn't like actually jump. It was just like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't ready for that. And maybe that's part of it too. Again, like with my viewing experience of just like Hereditary, Midsommar, and we talked about it so much on here. It's like, we're not seeing anything like that in these trailers. Like, are they hiding all the really fucked up stuff? Kind of turns out they weren't. It's just not there,
Yeah, right.
And that's again like where it's like I'm obviously having my feelings on it, but I am open to like seeing it again under a different context now. Just like, okay, I know what to expect. How will I enjoy it this time? Because I was just like waiting for, there does happen to be a decapitation in this movie, but it's just like, we don't really see it, it's just like, oh, okay. Well, notoriously your first like feature film had like one of the most insane decapitations we've ever seen on screen. And then now this one is just like, no, I'm not really going to like, you're going to see some vomit and a really large penis. And that's about it. That's about as weird as it's going to get. Like, okay.
I just so many questions. You talked about the note earlier. So this is kind of a thing that takes place during this act where Grace slips a note to Beau that says, "Stop incriminating yourself." She then at one point proceeds to direct him to watch Channel 78, a very specific television channel, which ends up being a security camera in the living room. And he finds out like it's a live feed, but he can pause, play, fast forward, or rewind, and fast forward. And on that fast forward, I don't know how much of that like you were able to catch, because it does happen so quickly. Basically all of those things do come to fruition. We see all of those moments that he sees. I have 2 questions for you. What did the note mean? Stop incriminating yourself. What is that like? What's her stance? What's her play? Where is she from on that? And how does that video work? I just want to know. I don't know. I don't get it.
The video stuff, I have no idea, but that was another thing that you can like mirrored that opening scene of this movie and Midsommar. It's like, okay, now we're going to see what happens for the rest of the movie. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it happens fast. I remember catching him standing on the side of a road,
yes,
sitting on something, you know, and then that final shot of like the stadium. That's like the only stuff I remember catching. And then obviously like the daughter attacking him or like coming after him. That kind of gets played in real time. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Again, like he's doing it again, where he's giving us some context clues, but we don't have the context yet. You know, it's kind of cool to see that. So no idea how it works, but I thought it was super interesting. As far as the note, it's just, I mean, obviously Amy Ryan is kind of like trying to let him know, like there's more than meets the eye.
There's weird shit going on, right? Like in that house, there's weird shit going on.
And that's where I wondered if it was like, does she somehow know about like the therapist recordings and notes and was just like, stop like saying all this shit about like what you're actually thinking? Cause I don't know. I don't remember him saying much at their house that felt incriminating, you know, like I don't remember him doing too much. If anything, he was just like, no, I need to go see my mom. I need to do this, whatever. So I again, like someone smarter will have the answer, but it's not me. It's for sure. What did you think it was?
I'm in the same boat as you. I have no idea. And I think that's what's so interesting and dynamic about the second act to me is like, I want to believe that there is more than the surface. I want to believe that Grace is really, you know, kind of is the key to unlocking and understanding like the MW Corporation is spying on him, is forcing him to make these decisions, because that's a very big thematic element to his character, is that he's paralyzed. He's decision paralyzed. He can't do anything for himself. And so it seems like that trauma with his mother has kind of indicted that. And so I want to believe that she is alluding to these very, you know, mysterious things going on behind the scenes. We don't get anything. That's just kind of it. We like literally we see the note, we see the camera, and then we move on from that. And I think that would have been a very interesting movie in and of itself. I think that would have been fun, and I think that would have been something worth exploring that would have been a little bit more clear, a little more concise. It would have hit a little bit more for me. And I think that dynamic with Roger, with Nathan Lane's character, he's a weird dude. And he does give off that vibe of like he's a plant or like he's hired or whatever. There's one specific time like Beau is like basically huddled in the corner, hasn't slept all night long, and he comes around the corner, and Roger comes around the corner and is like, hey, we're having a barbecue out back. You get the tri-tip, my man, and like walks away. And you're just like, are you cognizant of like what is going on right now? Do you see Beau? And so that just opens up more questions for me.
I like that he kept calling him my dude.
My dude, my brother.
My brother. It's like, oh my God, man. Like, you can't do this.
He was super funny. He was super funny.
A national treasure. I love him.
He was great.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things, obviously, I think to kind of break down and see. We get the car scene. I want to mention the car scene where Beau is forced to smoke a joint or whatever the three things in there are. We don't know. We don't have, she doesn't say, Tony doesn't say. And then we get this montage of Beau sleeping on the couch with the cruise memories. And this is where things get really like stitched together. How did all those flashbacks work for you with the young Joaquin and the young Elaine and understanding his relationship with his mother a bit more?
I think it worked pretty well. Like I enjoyed those flashbacks. One thing about this whole movie is like, as crazy as the trailer seemed with all the different stuff, it was a constant Leo meme of like, oh, okay, that's what it is. Like, you know, it's like, oh, that's why Amy Ryan has blue paint on her face. You know, it's just like, because in the trailer, it's like, what the fuck is happening? You know, that's got that going on. It's like, no, it's just literally blue paint. So it was cool to see some of this stuff happen in there and how they ended up like using it, because the trailer makes you think he's looking at his younger self, but that like never happens, you know, in that same context. But I don't know. I like the flashbacks. I thought they were kind of cool, and it was cool later on to hear her say like, those weren't dreams, those were memories. Like that stuff actually happened, you know?
Dude. And like, that in context of like what does end up happening is pretty fucked up. Like, turns out he's just like a really fucked up kid. I'm pretty sure that's what we end up resolving on. That a lot of those memories are really, really, really messed up. And then right after that is the paint moment. This is probably like the most left field, maybe unconnected, like, why did we do this kind of a thing? Like, Tony tries to convince Beau to eat paint with her and paints his name over Nathan's wall, and she dies of paint poisoning. Like, well, I'm sorry, but like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I don't either, because it's another situation of just like, if they're plants, like, are they actually married, or like, what's the real situation there? And this also happens after, you know, she and her friend get him in the van and just like make him smoke, like pressure him to do it, you know? But again, like, another one of the funny moments is just like, can you die from this? Like, will you die from this? Whatever, you know? I think that was, same at the beginning of like, I just swallowed some mouthwash. Like, I think you're okay. Like, you're not going to die from it. That relationship was interesting, because also her going to the other dude that was there, knocking on like his door of his like camper van thing, and like pointing to Beau and obviously talking about him. So their dynamic was really interesting. But again, I maybe that's what it is with this, where it's like, I don't understand the motivations of a lot of these people. And that's where I'm just kind of left. Like, I don't understand. Like, the only thing we get at the end is like, obviously the therapist was working with the mom and like helping out with all this information. But was this a Truman Show thing where everyone's in on it? Like, is that everyone that was like in the audience of that kind of place? Like, are those all the people that like she had hired? I don't know. But that's also, I think, just kind of where it fell short for me. Yeah.
I'm curious too, because I think Tony, the daughter, her ultimate motive did seem to be that like Beau was essentially stealing her spot in the family, right? Like, Beau was being adopted is pretty much how that was sold, and that she was losing her spot as the treasured child in that family, and that is why she went in that direction. So again, I do think it is that like complex duality of like grief or guilt, and like Beau is to blame whether he wants to be blamed or not. I think that's like a really maybe a key thread through all of the relationships that he has. Some pretty weird stuff goes down for sure. Okay, and then we kind of get the really like the second and a half act, but pretty much the third act, when he leaves this house and we go into the forest, and he meets these kind of like the forest orphans, and they put on a play. And this is where we get all of the animation that is in the trailer, which I thought the scene was quite lovely. I think it actually worked quite well for me personally, and for the movie. Getting this voiceover of how his life was going to be. I'm really curious what you thought about this.
Well, what was that like big sound thing that the dude was like winding up? Because like once it starts making that noise, everyone kind of leaned forward a little bit.
No clue.
And that's where I kind of, it's like, oh, is there something like in the drugs that everyone's taking that like this can be controlled that way? Is it a mind altering thing? Like, I don't know exactly, but yeah, I thought the visuals were cool. I love those trees, how they like kept turning and like the seasons changed like on the stage. I thought that was beautiful. Yeah, I mean, this part worked pretty well. And I really didn't know how much we were going to get past this. You know, I was like, oh, this is kind of like an interesting ending. If this is like, we learn that this story was actually just like kind of real the whole time, whatever, then all of a sudden it's just like, he's the only one standing up, and it's not even that story that's necessarily being told on stage at that moment. You know, it's just like, oh, okay, well, this is that was a trip. So it worked. Like, I thought it was interesting.
And this is the first time we're introduced to him as an old guy, and he is the old guy sitting in the tree who essentially created these forest orphan community and has created this. So that is where you get kind of this like Memento, Vanilla Sky type situation of like, is he living in a different like time stream? Like, what is going on? some reality loop or something. This is where we get to see Michael Gandolfini, which I thought was a great casting as one of his sons, which was really cool. And I loved that whole son bit. I thought that was probably the most emotionally authentic. And I thought Joaquin especially was very good in that scene with his children and kind of playing to that power of what that meant for him in his life and in his stage. Again, I just think there's like way too many questions surrounding that. Even though it did work, I think there's questions about who the pregnant woman might be and how they might be related and other things that you mentioned, like the sound thing that the guy's cranking, like he pulls a handgun out of there at one point. Like, I don't know. I don't know. And so I think there's a lot of questions that go unanswered. We get the camp blow up. This was wild and crazy. And was it his dad? I don't know. He's led to believe that it is his dad or a friend of his dad's, even though his dad has been dead from coming, essentially.
Apparently, allegedly.
Allegedly.
I couldn't tell what the deal was with this guy. I was kind of getting Slugworth vibes from Willy Wonka.
Oh,
where
yeah.
it's just like
Big
he's just kind of like following Charlie Bucket around.
Snooping around.
Like that kind of a thing. It's like, maybe this guy does work for his dad and he's just like going to let him know, like, oh, he's still alive. But there is also the things like maybe it just is his dad. Like, I don't really know. Because she says that, the mom says that at the end though, right? Like, that's your dad. Like,
but that's your dad. Like, who is the dad? Is it the guy with like a tin cup in the attic, or is it the big dick? Like, what does that mean?
Because like the tin cup looked like the little kid, like he still was wearing a little kid shirt. So it's like, oh, is this like a brother that Beau didn't think he had, or I don't know. Like,
so then I have another follow-up question for you, because, and I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but if the big dick, the monstrous sized cock and balls that are in this attic, that it is alluded to that Beau will turn into that person or monster or thing, correct? Because he does have descended testicles, and like when he's having sex with Parker Posey, like we can see his balls are enormous, and he turns into that living creature. Like, that's real, right? That exists in the house.
That's what it seems like. And
I'm perplexed.
Well, and it's also just like I don't know, it's the correlation I think with the birthday boy stabber, because it's like this naked thing, and it just like keeps, he had like the whatever, he kept stabbing himself and then like stabbed the dude that like came running in. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but it was just like, I don't know. This is the part though, I think probably why I liked Act 3 was like, okay, we've seen weird shit in an Ari Aster attic before. Like, let's get fucking weird here,
Let's get wild.
But then we were just like in there for a minute. I was like, oh, okay. I was ready for someone to be crawling on the walls or something like that. But I mean, it's still part of like, my favorite act of the movie for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we get the camp blow up. The dad or friend of the dad blows up, and people just start whipping guns out of places. And Jeeves comes running after Beau and falls on his own machine gun, and like just absolute unhinged behavior, to be quite honest with you. Like, I remember watching this scene just being like, this movie's unhinged. Like, this is unreal. I don't even know what's going on right now. And it's pretty crazy. And then we get Beau getting to his mom's house and showing up late to the funeral, seeing all the photos. One of the photos of which is of him receiving the news that she died on the phone. And how'd she get that photo? Again, that leads me to believe like the MW Corporation is just overseeing everything.
Yeah. She's got access to everything. That's again where I think the stop incriminating yourself note comes from, because Amy Ryan knows that the mom can hear everything Beau is saying.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So crazy. Okay. I want to mention the sex scene. This is just wild stuff. I'm honestly, I don't know. I guess I wasn't really ready for like what was going to happen. Because Parker Posey just fucking dies on top of him. Is that because is his semen like poisonous or something? Like, why does she die? I thought he was supposed to die.
like before we get to that, I mean, let's just talk logistics. If anyone here is like has had sex before,
let's talk
that
brass
is listening to this podcast, like Beau smells fucking awful. Like that man is not showered in days.
Rank as
like,
fuck.
Like he is gnarly as shit, and like no one in their right mind would. I mean, I think she kind of hints to it, like go to the bathroom, like freshen up, whatever, and it's just like nope, not gonna do it.
Dude, but she's deep on the wine though. She's like, I drank a shit ton of wine before I came here. And they go in the house and she's like, where's the bedroom? And then she's like, and then she mentions like, oh, the dragon's lair or something. And like she specifically calls it something very ominous.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's crazy. But dude is like stiff as a rock within 1 millisecond. And she just freezes and becomes a mannequin. Because I thought it was interesting. Watching this scene, we end up getting very focused on Beau. We go from focusing on Parker Posey and her character and then focusing on both of them. And then we strictly focus on Beau. And I remember thinking to myself, like, she's not responding. Like either this is an editing mistake or it's like, or we're just like, honed in on Beau and we'll get her side later or something, or this is very intentional. And of course it ended up being very intentional. Give me the breakdown, Ben. What are your logistics to why she died and Beau didn't die?
I don't know. I'm really curious about that. Like, I felt like it wasn't going to be an issue for him when the dude mentions like your dad's still alive. It's like, okay, so that, I think it was just like a scare tactic from the mom to be like, oh, you can't do this, or else like, kind of like an intense version of the, if you cross your eyes, you're going to get stuck like that, like this is just like an extreme version of that. But I have no idea why she actually did. Like you said, maybe there is some poisonous whatever, or that's just like what she, I don't know. I have no idea why, but like, do you think she waited for him too? Like, I know she kind of said that in a way, but
no way, man. No way. Parker
right?
Posey is way too good looking to wait around for Beau. Let's be honest here.
That's totally fair. Yeah.
That's not happening. I mean, and obviously with how hard she goes on the alcoholic beverages, that I'm sure this wasn't her first rodeo. She seemed to know exactly what she was doing. The Mariah Carey needle drop, iconic, and I totally understand why she was at the red carpet premiere of this movie now. It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And that is just where things really got weirder and weirder, to be quite honest with you, because her character is carried away down a hallway, and it turns out that Beau's mom has been watching the whole thing, which is kind of what we suspected a lot, but like, I didn't actually think she was going to be there. I didn't actually think that she wasn't dead. And that brought up a lot more questions, because we then get truthfully a sublime monologue from the mom, and things go off the hinges and they have a really great confrontation. What was your kind of take on this whole, like, her being there, her watching, and then delivering this monologue of like, you fucking hate me kind of a thing?
Patti LuPone, she just owned that whole 10 minutes. Like, that
crushed
was
it.
All her. Like, we talk about, Anthony Hopkins getting lead actor, whatever, for his 16 minutes in Silence of the Lambs. It's like, I think she should at least get nominated for supporting actress just for this 10 minutes, because like she kills it. She does such a good job, and it's cool to see her again. I don't feel like we see a lot of her, so she did a great job. It was intense to hear him be like, oh yeah, no, I knew that you weren't dead, and then that whole like,
because the hands, right?
Yeah, because of the birthmark or something like that. So like, he knew, I don't know that he knew that she was in the bathroom right there, but knew that she wasn't dead. So that was kind of an interesting choice too. But what a great monologue. Just it's such a really good scene there. But it is all the stuff that she brings up where it's like she took everything that he was saying as a little kid literally, and it's like, you can't do that, but she was holding it against him, and I think that's just what put him in the mental state that he's in.
Yeah, I think that's where we see a lot of that core trauma take place, and a lot of their relationship come to light, and we kind of get a deeper understanding of they really just had unhealthy expectations of each other is pretty much what it boiled down to. And then we get the attic. We kind of mentioned the attic. We get this other version of Beau, and this attic was a real place. It was a memory. So then when Beau was punished or didn't listen to his mom or wouldn't get in the bath, as we see, or whatever, he was then sent to this attic. We don't know how long. we don't know any logistical details, right? But like that person is not actually living up there, right? That's just like a vision that Beau sees of himself, but the dick is real. I'm just trying to square away what's real and what's not, because Aronofsky has fucked me up on this kind of stuff, and now Ari Aster's getting into it. I'm just trying to get things straight, Ben, quite honestly.
I have no idea, because I mean, it gets brought up at one point that she only had one kid, right? So Beau's like an only child, supposedly.
Yes.
But yeah, then you go up there and it's like, well, there's a very emaciated looking like Joaquin Phoenix up there in the same clothes that we saw from the kid that she shoves up there.
Was he living up there the whole time?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. Or did he have a sibling that she then just like never brought up again? You know, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But again, this is where it's another thing of like, I wish maybe some of this had been answered a little bit, you know, because it just kind of felt like, all right, this is like, a lot of this is confusing and there's no help. Like, that's one of the good things I think about Truman shows. We know the whole time that everybody's in on it. And I would have enjoyed in this of just like, we know the therapist is in on it. And, you know, if you see it, you see Nathan Lane works for this company, but it's never really addressed of just like what is this? And again, like, I mean, he can do whatever he wants. That's also was my problem with Joker, though, where at the end it's just like, was it all real or was he just dreaming? It's like, dude, it's a fucking cop out. Like, don't this is annoying, you know, like, don't make me watch something for 2 hours, then just be like, I don't know, was it? And that's, I think, again, why I just had a problem with this. It's like, just tell me, like, was the mom like, did she fund all this because she just wanted to keep track of her kid, or what's real, what's not? And yeah, he can do that, but I think there will be people like me who are just like, well, then, I mean, I just don't like that. Like, that's not what I want. Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's interesting. It can feel a little manipulative, and I didn't necessarily feel that way. I did, you know, when Beau does enter his mom's house, we get this very long, drawn out scene of him walking around and seeing the pictures and seeing the posters and all of these things, which does lead me to believe there is some premeditated version or world of what the mother has done, or you know, what has transpired. I thought that I saw Beau on the poster for his apartment complex, like he is being used as a poster child. And as we know, as we can see, and in some of like the promo emails and promo posters that A24 has even put out for this movie, the young kind of Joaquin Phoenix is in a lot of these medicine ads, medical ads for things as a young boy and as a teen. So that does lead me to believe there's something intertwined here. The final scene on the True Cinema that I wanted to mention, the Water Stadium ending. This is the ultimate, like, what the fuck is going on? How did we get here? We've got Richard Kind showing up, just an A1 role for this dude, quite honestly. Showing up, being the defense attorney for the mom, and then we've got Beau in this prop boat, basically, in the middle of the Roman Colosseum that's filled with water. And then on the other stage, on the other side, he's got his 1-800 defense guy that, you know, shout out Ari Aster doing what he does best and throwing somebody off a cliff onto a rock and smashing their head. What did you take away from the ending? Because quite frankly, I really, really had to go to the bathroom, so it felt kind of dragged out to me because I needed to be somewhere else.
As someone who didn't have to go to the bathroom, it felt dragged out. I was like, what is going on here? Like, it was just, again, I think it's why overall I didn't like this, because like the ending was just like, this is, I don't know, like, I'm fine with weird. I like weird, but this is just like, it just didn't hit for me. Like once we left the house, it was just, I was kind of checked out, you know. That really was the key moment for me. Like the campsite to the house, like that chunk of the movie, that's like, that worked for me. That was probably like, yeah, that worked, but everything else around it. So to end with that, like, it's like, okay, I don't get it. You know, it's like, what happens after this? Like, did you build this Coliseum just for this one moment? Like, you know, if the mom owns this company and stuff like that, it's like, are you judging other people with this thing? Like, I have no idea.
You're telling me that Coliseum is real? Like, that exists? Like, he took that boat and then he ended up, it looked like it was on a track underneath, like very Truman Show-esque. I think like that is one of the very minute clips that we get in the trailer that led us to believe like, cool, maybe he's under a dome the whole time or something, right? Like, we get this big jumbotron, and we get this like it looked very animated to me, and it didn't look real. But then the boat capsizes, and Beau fucking drowns, and he dies, and and then the credits roll, and it's like written and directed by Ari Aster, and it's like I don't know if any of that worked, quite honestly. And I think it's interesting. I think it's going to be a very interesting think piece over the next couple of weeks to see if there is room for people to say, you know what, it didn't work on all levels, but I think overall Ari Aster is just trying new things. Or are we maybe going to have a realization thing of like, this movie just doesn't work. Like, let's just be honest. Like, you know, and obviously people will disagree. Smarter people than us will probably say it works quite well, and it is actually a good movie. I don't know. I'm very interested to see how our takes on it change over time as well. What was your true cinema moment, Ben?
I mean, probably just the chaos of that dude showing up at the campsite when we get that knife thrown on stage and just like takes that dude out. It's like, oh fuck, he finally caught up. Okay. You know, and then I enjoyed all that kind of chaos. I thought that was kind of fun. So that would probably be my moment. That was probably my favorite thing in this movie.
I am going to go with the kind of animation future monologue montage. I think that worked really well. I love seeing Joaquin Phoenix dressed in that old Beau makeup and hair and beard, and seeing his three sons. And I felt like it did give us a little bit more insight into the story of like, oh, cool, maybe his mom is just kind of ruining his life for him, and he can have kids, and he will have kids, and like things look up. But I thought that whole scene really encompassed that like kind of pushing the envelope thing that Ari Aster wanted to do with this, especially incorporating some types of animation. I think that worked really well for me. And I liked that scene quite a lot. Any final overall thoughts before we do our A1 acts and jet out of here? Anything else you want to say about how much you love Beau is Afraid?
I feel like I've said everything I want to say about this movie right now. I'll save the rest for round 2.
All I'm going to say is whenever we have another Twitter contest and someone wins and we let them pick the topic of an episode, somebody please let us revisit Beau is Afraid so we can make Ben watch this movie again.
Oh, man.
It's already coming down the pipeline, Ben. Hey,
I know. Like, it's going to happen.
I have 50% control over the schedule here. So
it's true.
It's going down.
At least 50 for sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay, let's do A1 acts. This movie as a whole is very interesting. A1 acts, Ari Aster. Okay, we've got Beau is Afraid. Obviously, this one here. 3-hour mindfuck. Hereditary and Midsommar. Everything else he's done is a short. He's done only features with only A24, and they've really kind of iconicized what A24 horror is. I'm curious for you. I know you've got a very close connection with Midsommar.
Yeah.
I want to know, what's your A1 act for Ari Aster?
Let's check out the shirt here.
Oh, had to do it. That's a beaut.
Had to do it.
Get on YouTube if you didn't see that.
Right there, just me with my shirt like this.
Holding it up.
There it is. Yeah, Midsommar for sure. Like it's Hereditary is a great movie, but it's not something I need to revisit. And Beau is just something that I'll revisit. I will, because I feel like it deserves a second viewing. But Midsommar is something I could throw on at any point. I love that movie. I think it's so well done. So that's without a doubt my A1 act for Ari.
Okay. I respect that. I've only seen all of his movies one time, including Midsommar, which I actually watched for this pod. And it was a big reason I wanted to start the pod, because I was like, there are so many A24 movies I need to watch, and Midsommar was one. And I do think that is his best. I think that is his most concise, powerful, poignant message, diving into like psychological horror. And I think Beau is Afraid is definitely another side of that. I just think it's a little more convoluted and messy and sticky. And I think Midsommar works very, very, very well. Okay, we're going to do Joaquin Phoenix. Big role in this. A lot of people saying this could be his best role yet, his best performance in a movie yet. I don't know if I'd go that far, but he's been in a lot of things. We've got 8mm, Gladiator. Big Gladiator fan, Ben?
Yeah, you know me and Russell Crowe, dude. We're tight.
You're
super tight. Super tight. You want to know my feelings on Russell Crowe? There you go. There you go.
2 thumbs down. We got Signs. He was a voice in Brother Bear. Just wanted to throw that one on the list in case you didn't know. The Village, Hotel Rwanda, Walk the Line, We Own the Night, Reservation Road, 2 Lovers, I'm Still Here, The Master, The Immigrant, Her, Inherent Vice, Irrational Man, You Were Never Really Here, Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, Joker, Come On, Come On, Beau is Afraid, and then I put Napoleon, which is the upcoming Ridley Scott film, supposed to come out later this fall, and Joker, Fully Ado, coming out in 2024, the Joker follow-up. You coming out for that, or am I going to you for that? I know we're seeing that together.
But yeah, who knows, man? Maybe we'll go to New York and we can watch it on those steps.
Let's fucking go.
We can recreate that scene.
A24 road trip, brother.
Let's do it. So I'm going to do a couple honorable mentions. We've talked on here about Come On, Come On. It's a brilliant performance. It's so good.
Beautiful film.
He has a small role in one of the best ensemble movies, I think, of all time, Parenthood. He's in there as Leaf Phoenix, and we still going by Leaf, but Keanu Reeves is in it, like Rick Moranis. It's a great movie. So watch Parenthood if you haven't. And then the last nom, whatever, is You Were Never Really Here. I watched that for my other podcast, and that is, talk about stoic Joaquin Phoenix. Like he kills it. But my selection is going to be The Master. I think it's his best performance. It's a brilliant film. He goes toe to toe with Philip Seymour Hoffman, which is a tall task for anybody. And I think they both just like pump each other up throughout that movie. So that's what I'm going to go with, The Master.
I have yet to see The Master, and every day I wake up and I hate myself because I haven't seen The Master. And I love PTA movies, man.
You know what's interesting? I wake up every day and I hate you for not seeing The Master. So it's something that we have in common. So let's fix that.
Look at us. Look, honestly, we got to do more late pods, Ben, because you're unhinged and I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan right now.
This Coke is the only thing keeping me up right now.
This has been raw and unfiltered. Yeah. I'm going with Her. That's my pick. That movie is just so special. Okay. I love Joaquin in that movie. He has an incredible way with his eyes in that film that I think does make him a very special actor, but I think that movie works very well. I love Come On, Come On, and I think that's definitely worth a nod as well. But yeah, I think I just like Her way too much, and that's cool. I'm excited for Napoleon. I think it's gonna be good. I think Napoleon's huge. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix coming out with 2 movies this year, and then Joker next year. Like that's 3 quite big, quite large movies to be starring in, especially Ridley Scott. I mean, isn't Ridley like 85 years old? He's still kicking, man. He's still directing movies. Doing it. Yeah, it's unreal. Okay, last one here on A1X. We've got the Head Trip movies. Beau is Afraid is just a mindfuck from minute 1, quite honestly. Okay, here's what I've put on the list, and it is definitely not all encompassing. We've got Memento, Gone Girl, Shutter Island, Donnie Darko, Enter the Void, Mulholland Drive, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Truman Show, The Eyes of My Mother, Mr. Nobody, Vanilla Sky, Primer, Predestination, and Enemy. That's the short list for what I could hunt down. Nice. What are you going with, Ben? I think for this, it's hard not to go with Memento because it was a great introduction to Nolan, and it is such an interesting movie. So I'd probably go with Memento, but definitely shout outs to Gone Girl and Donnie Darko. Yeah, Gone Girl is good, man. So Gone Girl is really, really good stuff. I agree with you. I think Memento is like pretty classic when it comes to this. I have a soft spot for Vanilla Sky in my heart. I think I talked about it last week on the pod. Like I watched the movie as a little fledgling cinema boy back in high school, and I liked that movie quite a lot. And you know, we've talked about the Truman Show on this pod a lot, and I think that should go noted as well. I think that's a great, not necessarily a head trip movie, but I think it is one of the ultimate like, oh, I get it. Like, oh, this is what's really happening kind of moments. I think that's really crucial to kind of that style of movie. Mm-hmm. Okay, A24 ranking, Ben. I really want to know. I don't know if you're going with F, but I want to know what you're going to go with. Can you see the light? Can you see any thing worth noting that won't give it an F?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a D, 24.
Okay.
I think I would give it an F. Like I feel like I've reserved Fs for the ones that like I have no desire to go back and watch ever again. You know what I mean? It's just like a second viewing isn't going to give me anything.
No benefit.
And I will give credit to this movie that I do think there's probably some stuff where in a controlled environment without 5 people on their phone, without me expecting the absurdity of Hereditary or Midsommar. Like I am genuinely curious to see what I can pull from a second viewing on this. And there were some things that I liked that we talked about throughout here. So I give it a D24. I think that's what I'm going to go with for this one.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. I think too, we didn't talk about the score, but I think the score is quite good.
Yeah.
Bobby Krilik did the score on this one.
Okay, nice.
And it was really good. I believe he did some of the scoring on Beef as well, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
I'm going to go with a C24. I think there are things that I like about it. Namely, you know, kind of, I think we had both the same feeling about the forest scene. I think that works the best. I think there's a lot of things that are just a little too disjointed and a little too lofty. There are moments that are really engaging and really eye-popping and interesting to watch. I think there's some really good camera movements. I didn't mention there's one particular moment in the beginning in the city where like we get an overhead pan of which way he's looking, and it was really nifty. I really liked some of those moments. But yeah, I think it's going to take some time. It's going to take some rewatches. I just don't think it lands quite like we wanted it to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it just wasn't what we maybe had expected. And it's weird because it wasn't what I expected, but it was exactly what I thought I was going to get, if that makes sense. Like it was totally unhinged and unreal and disjointed and weird and crazy and like a massive fucking penis with a stinger, but then like none of it really worked. Like it just didn't connect back for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I go with a C24. I'm really curious what smarter people are going to say. I'm really curious what other podcasts are going to say, what other people think, what Twitter is going to say, and you know how this will go down in the coming weeks. Again, I'm interested in the box office as well. I'm really want to know how A24 is going to fare on this one.
Yeah, for sure. I know, you know, Twitter, for the people that have been able to see it a little bit early, it's been very mixed. You know, again, like reading that thing where someone talked about it being like Babylon. But I saw some other people who were just like, they were ready to stand up and clap at the end of it. Like there's just been definitely kind of divisive. So yeah, I think it's cool. I like when movies do that, even if I fall on the side that didn't really love it. So let these guys take a swing. You know what I mean? Like let them do it. Let these directors do their thing. Are
you for like A24 giving Ari Aster another budget? Like, hey, next movie, like whatever you want to do, man, go for it. Or would you like to see him structured in a little bit more?
No, I'm very curious about his next one from the little that we know about it, of it kind of being like a horror Western, I believe is kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And I think I like that, like get him back into like the horror bag and then like a defined genre. This really just did feel like, yeah, do whatever you want.
Yeah. I'm really curious if this movie will launch forward. Like if you look at his fourth film, whenever we get that in 3 or 5 years, I'm curious if we're going to see elements from Beau is Afraid that he would not have felt comfortable trying otherwise if he had not gotten them out in this film. You know what I mean? Like it just seemed like the kind of the cultivating zone for let's try some things and then maybe hones them back later on. I'm curious what that'll look like too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. We'll reconvene on the second viewing. Maybe someone will make us watch it and we'll talk about it again. But
there you go.
Next
Patreon watch along, dude, right there.
Oh my gosh. In 24-minute segments, we can do that. We'll watch it over a whole year.
There you go.
Yeah. So next week on the pod, we're leaving the big screen. We're heading to the small screen and the streamers. We're going to be talking about Sharper, which came out recently and is on Apple TV Plus.
Julianne Moore Squad, rise up, baby.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. Sebastian Stan, I'm here for it, even if he doesn't have a metal arm. So I'm excited to talk about that movie. John Lithgow, who's always great as well. So yeah, join us next week for that. Let us know again what you thought about Beau is Afraid. What ranking would you give it? Did you have a good time? Where does this fall in your Ari Aster ranking? Hit us up. Let us know. We are on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. We are also on YouTube, or maybe you're watching us right now. If you are, subscribe, notification bell, all that kind of stuff. Ethan does a lot of good work on these, so it's a fun thing to watch. And you get to see us, and you get to see like my tired eyes right now as I just like comprehend what I just watched for 3 hours. So,
it's an incredible pod. I got to be honest, because you started with these bright eyes, and then as soon as I was like, "Hey, what'd you think of Beau?" I saw you take like a very visible dip, and you were just like, "Oh, I got to ride this whole pod out with a movie that I'm not." I'm glad you noticed that,
because I was like, I didn't want to give anything away with like my visuals before we started talking. He's like, I can't let him know how I feel about this. Like, we'll get.
You hit it very well. You did a good job.
And that's probably what took all my energy, was to pretend that I was excited to talk about this. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, subscribe to us on YouTube, and leave us comments. Like, we love talking to everybody. So, like, interact with us, please. It's that little dopamine kick that we need. It just gives these notifications like, oh, cool. Hey, yeah, someone to talk back to. So, yeah. Thanks again for watching. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I'm Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.